record, please.
Before trying to call my brother.
All right, I think we're recording. So it's 6:04. I know this is the start of the service meeting. We had to flip that around. But with Dwayne's resignation as well, I asked Wade if he wouldn't mind being the step-in chair for service for the last couple of meetings for the last couple of months. So, Wade, if you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, I'll call service committee to order at 6:04, and we'll take a roll call.
Cosgray.
Present.
Foreman.
Present.
Okay. You got also in looks like attendance is the village administrator, the mayor, the fiscal officer.
And of course, we've got Mike, Chuck, and just Mike and Chuck at this point. And Brad is on here as well.
And Barb.
And Barb.
Right, I'll do a approval of the meeting minutes for September 28th.
I've looked them over, Wade. I make a motion we approve them as written.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Do we need to make a motion to amend the agenda for the current agenda for the chair position, or?
Nah, that's a Scrivener's thing.
Okay.
We can just note that. And
So go ahead and make a motion to approve the agenda for October 12th for the service.
Okay, I make a motion we approve the agenda for the service
Second.
committee meeting.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the approval of the minutes have been done. So we've got any visitors?
Terry, were you going to do Brad as part of visitors or part of the
No.
village department reports?
Village Department reports. He's going to report on the first project on the first page.
Okay.
All right, so we got the goals for the wastewater treatment plant are still the I&I reduction. And water treatment plant is to help determine the unaccountable water. And for projects, we've got the water lines, the streets, cemetery, and the pool. No other projects need added? We'll move on to the reports. And if the VA, do you want to bring Brad in now?
Yeah, what I want to do is talk a little bit. We've had some major developments in some of our projects. And one of the biggest major development, as you know, is the paper mill starting to discharge into our collection system. And what you'll find in your packet is a couple of MASSI reports. And Brad is online, and he's going to explain his little paragraph. That's his paragraph there that he reported out to me about it. And then that way, if you have any questions at all about, is it impacting this? Is it impacting that? What are you seeing? Brad is on the line that you can ask him. So I'm going to stop talking and let Brad start talking. So go ahead, Brad.
Okay. So you'll see on September 29th, I think it was 10:40, they started discharging into our sewer system. And, excuse me. We immediately started taking samples, like our daily samples, DO, pH, temperature, stuff like that throughout the day. We didn't see any change in our DO or pH or anything like that. Over, I'd say a couple of days, we noticed our DO and our pH increased just a little bit, which is...
Brad, what's DO? I know what pH is.
Dissolved oxygen, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so
pH, I'm assuming, is acidic level?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'm assuming pH is acidic level.
Yeah. Our pH typically runs around 7.5. It actually increased it up a little bit, so it actually kind of helped our pH. So it also depends on the weather, the time of year, temperature can play a role, and your DO a lot actually. So DO wasn't necessarily one of the things we were completely keeping. I mean, we were keeping an eye on it, but we weren't too concerned about it as long as it didn't drop it too low. But it actually increased it by, I'd say, I think it was like a 0.5 milligram per liter. And then so as the pH, it increased it just a little bit. And our biggest thing was our weekly samples of CBOD, our chemical biological oxygen demand. That is kind of what we were keeping an eye on. And our ammonia, obviously, and our suspended solids, and our E. coli as well. You can see in the packets or the mass ice sheets, I have one sample on here. You can see the 24th, which is before they started discharging to us. They started on the 29th. You can see what our effluent, our clean water leaving was on detect all the way through. And then you can see our very first samples that we had for the week after they discharged have been all non-detect as well. And also our influence. If you look at our influent before they discharged to us, and you look at our influent after they started discharging to us, not much has changed. I mean, you're looking at 9 milligrams per liter in BOD, and it fluctuates a lot throughout the day and throughout the week. So we haven't really seen any change at all in our influent or effluent. Now, we do have a couple more samples that we're waiting on results on from that side. They take a while to run, but we really don't have any concern in those, really, either like our metals and our low-level mercury and all that. So far, it's going pretty good. Their flow, they told us originally it was going to be around, I think it was like 90 to 100,000 gallons a day. They backed down to around 60 to 65 when they first started discharging to us. Glenn Miller mentioned to me that when they are actually in processing more paper, they actually tend to recycle more water through their system. So they actually will discharge less to us the busier they are. So they've been roughly around 60 to 70,000 is what they've been so far.
So as far as what's coming into the plant with the new membranes and everything, it hasn't really affected anything at all. It's not a problem.
No, and from what we've tested, everything that we have tested and got results back, it has not affected any of that. And the results that we've gotten back were the ones that we were actually more concerned about as far as our BOD and stuff like that. So, and surprisingly, it didn't even really change our influence, which I expected to see some sort of a jump in our influence, but we haven't seen really any change other than, like I said, the pH went up a little bit and the DO went up a little bit, but that's actually okay. It kind of helped us a little bit. We're well within EPA permit regulations.
So the first week so far is success.
Yes, so far. Yes.
So far.
Yeah. Like I said, we take monthly samples that go to Mass Eye, so there's going to be other samples later this month that we'll take that we haven't taken yet. But as far as our weekly samples that we do weekly, those are so far pretty good.
Now, when they go to discharge a little more to us, they're at, based on your numbers, like you said, about 65,000 gallons a day right now. If they go up to closer to that 90 mark, what they originally said, are they going to give you a heads up so that you can monitor it the first couple of times you get a flow like that coming in, or is it just going to be, hey, it's not raining out and it's a dry day and here comes a bunch? So they must have started doing stuff.
They haven't really, no. We haven't talked really about that. I don't think there would, I wouldn't see wouldn't expect to see a change in just another 20 or 30,000 gallons coming in. We're barely seeing a change right now with 60 to 70,000. So I don't foresee any sort of change in an extra 20.
Okay.
It was really surprisingly how much it didn't change. I mean, we expected to see in our influence coming in, we expected to see a significant increase, but we knew our plant could process it. But when it came in and there was really no change in our influence, I was pretty happy and pretty relieved and kind of surprised. But yeah, when you take 60 to 80,000 or so, and you mix it in with another 250 to 300,000 gallons, it kind of blends in, it kind of dilutes it down. So and this is our dry time too. So it's only going to get better as far as dilution goes, because if it's this low during our dry period or our wet period, it should be just fine as well.
Very cool.
You said BOD. What's BOD? I'm not sure what some of these phrases are.
CBOD, it's chemical biological oxygen demand. It's how much oxygen the biology needs to survive. So the less the better. That means you're not having your biology. There's nothing in there for it to feed off of. So that's actually good if there's anything in there. So nothing can grow, basically. So, and our E. coli as well has been not detected, which is another one of those things that we were keeping an eye on.
Going along with that, one of the things we'll be doing is not only will Brad be monitoring very closely the items that he said, but we're going to also monitor the electric use, the chemical use, and et cetera, to see if there's been any increase. Yes, Brad?
I will say, will this, I mean, it's not that much more right now, but it's still more. So are we anticipating our sludge bags filling up quicker?
Yes, and we've talked to Bird and Bull about that, about our other project with the sludge tank. We were hoping this year, but it didn't kind of work out with everything that was going on. But we're hoping to next year, we have it in our projects to add the other sludge tank in there. So that will help us give some more storage space for sludge. And we will probably be going through bags maybe a little bit more often. We're guessing right now. I would assume our sludge will go up, but we're kind of playing the field on that, seeing how that goes. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm interested to know how much like the sludge changes, because they're not really sending, at least in my mind, the residential stuff that comes in, there's going to be just by definition sludge in there, and they're sending us, byproduct water that I don't know how much stuff would be in there that would get filtered out for the sludge. So it's just.
Well, our bug activity, we anticipate it's going to increase
okay.
with this different influence coming in. So we just don't know exactly how much it's going to increase or how much it's going to, I guess, affect our sludge. We haven't seen anything, knock on wood, lately. I know it's only been a couple weeks, but we've taken a lot of sludge samples. We've taken a couple sludge samples, seeing what percent we're at, and we're kind of seeing at what rate it's increasing. We ran some sludge samples out of our aeration and our anoxic zones, and we also ran some sludge samples out of our membrane tanks to get a percentage of where our sludge is at right now beforehand. And then we are kind of keeping an eye on it, see if it changes, if it increases. We're still keeping our wasting rate the same. So we're trying to make everything business as usual, as far as, keeping it the same process as we normally do, to see if what we're doing beforehand will work, if there's any changes that need to be made, or we can increase wasting, or if we need to look at, maybe buying bigger bags because we're going to waste more often. Just, kind of taking all around, I guess, estimate of what to possibly expect. It's kind of a go as you Figure it out as you go along, kind of thing in a way, just because you don't know how it's going to react, per se. So.
Okay.
So wouldn't the suspended solids contribute greatly to like the sludge and all that sort of stuff?
The suspended solids, yes, that would contribute to that. I mean, you can see
on the MassDOT reports, there's only like 2 milligrams difference between before we started taking their influent and then after.
Yeah, it's not much. That's why we were kind of wondering how much it was going to change. We weren't exactly sure. It could change because bugs are actually less active in the wintertime. They actually slow down. But in the summertime, when the temperature is up, they actually multiply quicker. So we still have some, I guess, scenarios to kind of play through to see what's going to happen. Obviously, in the wintertime, our sludge does slow down. We don't waste as much. But it's also a good time for us to get caught up on sludge as far as thinning our sludge down. Because we also have to look at our sludge as playing a factor in our membranes, because the thicker the sludge is, the harder it is for our membranes to try to pull water through them. So whereas some people like to keep their suspended solids at a different percentage, we have to keep ours possibly lower because of membranes and, plugging them up and stuff like that. So does that kind of answer what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I was really surprised with how little the influence actually changed. And we may not have to increase our sludge. So like I said, we really weren't 100% sure how this was all going to react to our plant, but we had a good idea that as far as it leaving the plant, it would be okay.
My understanding is that the bug makeup is going to change at the plant, and that the bugs that will change will give off methane gas. Is there any kind of way of measuring that or seeing if that starts to occur?
We don't have a way of measuring methane gas right now. We can.
But has the EPA or anybody mentioned that could occur? Or?
No.
Well, but Brad, that won't necessarily be much of a problem for us, will it? Because unlike a traditional plant where it would sit out there and like over at the mill where they have the burn off tower for their methane, because it just filters through the membranes real quick and then is out. Even if it did put off a little methane, it shouldn't be a problem.
It shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, I have not had my hands in the methane part. There used to be a methane burn off tower at the plant. That's no longer in use. We've never had an issue with methane burning off. EPA has not come to us and asked us about that. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge in capturing and burning off methane, but I wouldn't think that there would be a problem with us, especially. I understand what you're saying with the bugs changing. Yes, there's a possibility that they're.
I mean, everybody knows where there's a paper mill because they recognize the smell. And that's been my concern the whole time, is that we're going to move that odor from Rome side, where it goes right out of town, to downwind of the entire town. And I just wondered if it had even been discussed that the bug makeup may change and move the methane gas smell.
No, that has not actually been brought up during that. I don't.
I'll be the first to know.
Yeah. I don't.
Oh, Michael know the same day.
Yeah. He's very close there. But I don't foresee that happening. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on the methane process part of the sewer system, just because we don't have it. But with it being mixed in with everything else, it's possible that the bug makeup may not change as much because there's not as much of a change with it being diluted down with all of the residential flow. That's kind of how I look at it. I could be wrong, but I wonder if that's just why it hasn't been brought up yet, because it's possibly being diluted down, and it's probably not going to make that much of a change in our bugs. But like I said, it could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of methane process.
Yeah, being diluted down, and I guess from the time something comes into the plant to the time it hits the screen room until the time it goes out into discharge in the creek, how long are you looking at there, Brad, for time-wise?
You're looking at around, I think it was, I want to say 7 hours, maybe 6 hours, I think, depending on how fast the trains are moving.
Right.
How much the trains are pulling, the water through.
So, I mean, where we get the methane with traditional plants, it's sitting in their ponds for a while. So if we're talking 6 hours, 8 hours to pull it through, you would have to have I would think you would have to have, and maybe Wade would know since he's the chemistry guy and the science guy here as well, but I would think you'd have to have a lot of bug change in order to produce that much methane change in a 7 hour period to get it out there.
Process in that, like I said, the methane process I'm not completely familiar with, but I have to probably do a little bit more research on that. Like I said, we haven't seen any change. I would assume if we were going to see a change, we would have seen it by now. But especially with it being our low flow period, there's actually less dilution right now with the paper mill because our flow.
So from what I understand, the paper mill did a different process so that hydrogen sulfide smell, that rotten egg smell was reduced. They did some other process change or some kind of infrastructure upgrade. Is that correct?
From what I've heard, they just covered their lagoons. They put a cover over it.
Yeah, because that rotten egg, that hydrogen sulfide stuff, I haven't really noticed too much. So they might have just basically solved the problem by
my understanding was that they covered the lagoons, and the first time they did it, that they actually killed the bugs, and then they brought in consultants and found out they need to put oxygen in and get the methane out and burn it off, and so they brought them back, and so
the plant burns off
the methane could move to our place, but I don't know. You're right. We're diluting it a lot. So maybe they don't really know, but I mean, you'll smell it at the plant well before you'll smell it in town, but has there been any change in the overall odor at the plant?
That's hard to say because even before they started discharging to us, there's days it smelled and there's days it didn't smell. Temperature does play a role in the smell too.
Oh, of course.
So there are days, in the summertime where you walk in the office and you can smell it in the office and you just want to get outside and take a breath of fresh air and it's just as bad. But it's hard to say whether it's changed or not because it always has changed beforehand. So I guess that would be more of a question for people in town maybe because I doubt they could smell it before. I could never smell it at the end of the driveway. I didn't smell it until I got up to the plant. Like I said, no, I haven't really noticed a difference in the odor at all.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. Not just for the update, but for all the work.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate it.
Okay, Brad. Now you can go have your treat.
My treat?
Yeah, he promised the girls that they were quiet, he'd give them a treat. So.
I
just lock them in the room up there.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks.
Bye. So the next project on the list then is the South Company Lift Station project. This project is finished. Everything that BSI Engineering had entered into an agreement with us to do, they have done. So now we're just basically waiting on the rain. So I would say that project is complete, but I just would like to keep it on here until I'm sure that we're good to go. One of the projects that I added back onto this sheet was our I&I project. I think it's very important to know that we have not lost sight on this I&I project. We are still working on it. We are working under the direction of a timetable that was given to us by the EPA. Now, the EPA wanted us to engage an engineering firm. And if you remember right, council had approved last year is bringing Burn and Bull, which is now B3 on board to help with this. We did, and I will say we, meaning the staff did a lot of work on this that has saved the village a lot of money. And I can't hit home or reiterate enough that the smoke testing that we went through, that staff was ever able to do, and right now V3 is creating a map for us to show us where the worst areas are in the village. By doing all of this, they save the village bundle. So I think sometimes we take all of our staff for granted, right down to the office staff, because Barb worked really hard on this with the guys and making sure that we had documentation. So we have a whole book about 2 inches thick that has all of the results and pictures in. So I want you to know we haven't lost sight of this. Also, if you remember right, I&I is one of those metrics that we have been tracking. And in fact, it is in the guise of the overflows. So if you remember, on a monthly basis, and you'll be getting that at the next council meeting, you have metrics. And one of those metrics is how many overflows we had in that month that occurred. So even our overflows, because we have such great discharge from the membranes, they get so diluted that at one point in time, when Mr. Smith was there, Dave Smith, if you remember him, he says sometimes our discharge is better than most plants' internal affluent water. So we are not discharging per se the latest pile of crap into the creek. If anything gets discharged, when it gets discharged, it's very diluted. And of course, you know, all of that is reported to the EPA. So every time there is a discharge into the creek, it is reported to the EPA. And again, you see that metric on your monthly metrics under the overflow. So I just wanted you to know I put that back on just so that doesn't get lost, because I think it's important. And I'm sorry I took it off, because I think there was some confusion about what is getting discharged into the creek. And I just wanted us to get all on the same page. And in fact, in your handout, you will find a nice article from the EPA that says, what is an inflow and an infiltration? So it talks a little bit about what I&I is. I thought it was kind of informative. So in your extra time that you have for reading, you may want to take a look at that. I supplied that in your packet. I'm moving on to the streets projects now, the OPWC specifically. All the paving has been done. We've had to do some modifications based on the location of a tree and also on a gas line. So we are working on those modifications. In fact, just before this meeting started, I was on the phone with Tim so we can work through what we're going to be done. But all of the paving to the street and all of the stabilization to the street has been done, and they're in the process of working on the sidewalks and also the approaches. They're moving along really quickly. If you remember the original timeline, they thought they would be completed by November 16th. They're probably about 30 days ahead of schedule, which is good, because a part of applying for our next round of OPWC money is that we have no open projects on the book. And this right now is considered an open project. So I really am striving to get this done and get it closed before the submission dates for our OPWC projects for 2021. And I'll roll into that right below that. And that's the Park Street for the streets for the OPWC in 2021, which will be from Cliff Street out all the way down to Dorchester, and including the pool parking lot and Summer's Choice. If you're observant, if you go down those streets a lot, you'll notice there's a traffic counter there. The Fairfield engineers have installed a traffic counter last Thursday. That will stay in that area until Friday morning, and then it'll be removed. And then that traffic count will be a part of our OPWC submission. So we're working on that, and just wanted to give you an update on where we're at. The Holder Road project, we do consider this done and finished, so this will be coming off the list. State Route 256, we still have one area down by where Ruth lives on West Market Street by the storm drain there. We kind of think that that needs a little more buildup or something to keep the water from pooling there. So we're working with the paving company and ODOT, and we're waiting for a rain. So once it rains, we'll be able to look at that more. But right now, as it goes, everything is on a finished cycle. I was really kind of disappointed. You know, we got the yellow stripes painted at the corner of Main and Market so that people don't use that right-hand lane to slide up beside you and turn right when the light's red. And I wanted that on the Main Street side also, but because of the configuration of the parking places, we couldn't. And I was sitting there this morning on my way to work, and don't you know, this truck pulled right up beside me and turned right, even though I have my right-hand turn signal on. So I'm really disappointed. I wish there was something more we could do there, but that didn't develop. So other street projects that we're looking at, if you remember at the last council meeting last month, we approved Oak Street, Washington Maple, and South Mill to Kellner to Maine to be paved, and those are over and done with. Those have been finished. They were finished within a week that they started. One of the things that I did do, I did get a couple of calls from a couple of the residents on a couple of those streets, and they thought they had damage to their sidewalk or driveway. And I talked to Corey Brown today at Strasser and told him, so I will be calling those residents tomorrow and giving them a number to call. If there is an issue and you do get a question, if you want to just refer them to me, I will take care of it for you. Our project under the pothole patching, if you notice down in item number 2, we have been trying to find time to do this alley between West Jefferson and West Elmwood. We really want to try to get that done yet this season because the whole the potholes here are very, very deep. So I'm really targeting to get that done. So remember, if you council said only do through alleys, and so that's what we're focusing on, those through alleys that really need to have some help. Any questions on streets? I know this is a lot. I'm throwing a lot at you, but I want to make sure you understand, you know, what we're doing. So under the water projects, the Westwood water line is complete. It's done. We got 2 successful back T-tests back, and so all of the residents out there have been tied in. We've been talking to them, and they just can't believe their water pressure change and how clear the water is. So this was a big win for everybody along that road. The other OPWC project that we're entertaining to submission to this coming year is the water project, and it's the Kumler Brown Fremont Loop project. And we had some of that finished because if you remember right, we had already submitted that project to CDBG and it was not funded. And so we're trying to get it funded for OPWC. The PTI is done, and so we have all the documentation we need. So that will be submitted the 1st of November along with our street paving project. Going on then to the next page. What do they always say? Your plans are always, something always happens. You can't really totally plan everything out and not have something arise. So Romulus Street has become quite the hot spot for leaks. We, in the last 2 months, we've been there almost 5 times. Prior to that, we probably were there 4 or 5 times before. Tim is telling me when he takes his probe to push into the ground, he can really go right through the pipe itself. So we are going to probably have to repair that section of the pipe. And that would be from Rome Street down to North Street. So once we get all of the, we did get with Brian and asked Brian if there was money to do that, and he said there was. So we're trying to keep it around 20 $24,000, and it would be a project that we would do internally. Basically, much like what we did on South Main Street, only we'd be installing the pipe and then installing the residential services and abandoning the current one. But this water line right now has a slow running leak, and we can't patch it anymore. It has more patches than you can imagine. My other thing I want to talk about then is the other two big projects going on in town right now. One of them is Shaftner's Drive-In. They are starting to work on connecting the sewer connection line. Their contractor has been selected. And again, they are going to try to do as much work as possible while they're still open. So you'll see a combination of them being open and work being done. So that work has started. I'm sure Jeff will update you on Dollar General, because tonight there is an ordinance, I believe, on the agenda for annexation. That work is moving along very quickly. So they were out today to bore in the water line and the sewer line. So again, Stillion was out there today to do the directional boring. I know that's a lot. Does anybody have any? I know, but this is, it's getting to be the end of the year. We're trying to get everything done. It's like, the staff is working very, very hard.
Oh.
I'll talk more in council about a couple of other things, but do you have anything else that you would like, any information from me?
No, I think that about covered everything.
Okay.
I say it's a lot, but it shows how much work is really getting done, and a lot of it's done by the staff. So
By the staff, correct. I do have one new business item, Wade, once you get there, please.
Sure. What the next report of Parks and Rec?
The Parks and Rec chose not to have a meeting last month. They are meeting, and it'll be the last Wednesday of this month. So more to come on that.
All right. Rick, anything from the BDRC?
We have a meeting on Thursday, so nothing really since our last meeting.
All right. Anything under old business? I don't see anything. And okay, so new business, back to you.
Thanks, Wade. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that we need to do some preventive maintenance on our parking lots. That would be the parking lot that is connected at the street barn and the police station, and also at the village hall. It's just starting to crumble because we have not did any sealing, and all we're going to do is seal that. I asked him to go out and get 2 bids for me. One bid came in at $5,700. The other bid came in at $2,700. And I asked him if they were apples to apples, and he said yes. So I believe the $2,700 bid is what we're going to go with. And again, that's for the maintenance or the topping for the village hall parking lot, the police department parking lot, and the street barn parking lot. So I would just like to have a motion from someone, even though it's well below the amount I can spend. I still want your input on this.
Who were the 2 contractors that bid that?
Yes, one contractor's name was Ameria. I should have had that, Mr. Foreman. I'm sorry. I can send you a copy of those bids. So it was America something. And then another one was a local contractor. And I don't have his name right off the top of my head.
Was that the one that was the low bid?
Yes. The local one was
Spires?
No, it was not Spires. No, it was an independent, and he's did some other work around the area. He came highly recommended. So I will send those out. I don't have their names in front of me. I apologize for that.
I mean, I guess I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept that low bid, but I wish I knew who it was.
Okay, well.
I'll second the motion. So Foreman makes a motion. We accept the low bid. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then under new business, we had the Cliff Street sidewalk bids that we were going to look into for a sort of a group bid on getting sidewalks.
Right. And he hasn't got back with us. Tim they went down and they measured. They figured it's about 90 feet per each residence. And we're still waiting on Cotner to get us the bid back on that.
Okay.
All right.
Any other new business, anybody? Okay, so I guess we can adjourn. When's the next meeting? It'd be in 2 weeks.
No.
It'll go back to it should go back to its regular meeting. So it'll go back to the 4th Monday. Yeah. Is that when we were doing service, 4th Monday?
Yes. That'll be October the 26th.
No, wait, sorry. We did service immediately after finance. So service is always is the second Monday. So it'll be the second Monday in November.
23rd.
Or was I?
No, Mary. It's finance and rules are on the second Mondays of every month. Service and safety are the 4th Mondays.
4th Mondays. Okay.
Service is going to be on the 26th.
23rd.
Okay.
23rd.
Third.
Thanks for keeping us straight there, Brian.
Okay, October. It'll be on Mondays. It's the 23rd.
Yes, Monday, November 23rd. But
oh, okay. I was 4th Monday in
November.
Okay, gotcha. And with that, I think motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor, aye. Adjourned.
Oh, wait a minute before we adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Foreman, the name of the company is Fairfield Asphalt Maintenance Service.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, you should have had that.
No problem. I just like to Google them and see what I find and things like that, just see who we're dealing with.
So we're going to roll into the Rules Committee next.
Okay, Wade, you done?
Yep.
Okay. We'll go right into Rules Committee meeting starting at 6:46, which is not bad. But start at 6:45. Okay, Brian, do roll call, please.
Keller.
Present.
Osgood.
Present.
Foreman.
Present.
Okay, everybody's here. We also got the mayor, the village administrator. I think I've seen the police chief on one. Mike Tuffy, are you still on there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Okay, and we got Brian. We also got the Mike Hamilton on as a council member.
And Hankinson's here too.
Oh, okay, Bob. Okay, good. We got all the council members on tonight. The approval of the minutes, meeting of September 28th.
Yeah, Cosgrave make a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
Foreman seconds.
And Foreman second. And any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. Brian?
Keller.
Yes.
Cosgrave.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes is approved. Visitors, Mayor?
None. No emails.
Okay. Well, I guess they're not interested. The goals, since this is the end of the year almost, employees manual review. I don't know if there's anything that we got to touch on before the end of the year. I don't know. Roles of council, I know we've already done that. So I don't know if there's anybody have anything else we want to hit next 2 months. Okay. Old business, Terry, cemetery fees. I see you got it on hold for now, but I see you put a print out.
Yes, I did. Mr. Keller, could I ask that we go around the old business discussion items and go into the new business first, please, so we don't run out of time?
Oh, that's fine. Sure. COBRA, new business. Go ahead, Terry. We'll go right into new business.
Okay, so what I come to you before today is this. If you remember when COVID first hit, we put together a lot of directives that were given to us by the governor in the state of Ohio and also the Ohio Health Department. So one of those, and I don't need to reiterate all of those, but what I want to talk about mainly is the exposure of someone who has been potentially exposed to COVID. And when we have that situation, I did call the Ohio Department of Health's COVID hotline to make sure that we were following the correct procedure. And I'm bringing up tonight because I really do, and this could be a part of the employee manual review, think that we should have something in our manual that addresses it, because I do not believe that it's going to go away tomorrow. I believe that we're probably will have it around for a while. And I bring it up because I have an employee that I asked to leave because they said that a family member had been exposed to COVID. I asked them to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks, which would be 10 working days out of the office, and then to test before they return to make sure that they didn't have it and they weren't asymptomatic. When I was on the phone last week with the health department, they were telling me that it is very possible that asymptomatic is spreading the virus to people, and they don't realize it, and that's why they're saying that the quarantine is very important to do. So I'm looking at council's input, and this is the reason why. It's like I explained to my staff, it doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. I am charged with keeping the staff members of the village as well as the residents safe. That is what I'm supposed to be doing, and following the directives of the governor and the Ohio Department of Health. So whether I like it or not, whether I want to wear a mask, whether I don't believe in it, has no does not enter into any decisions I make. So I'm bringing this out as an open conversation with, it looks like, most of the council people, to see if, when it is time for this person to return for work, if we should require them to test before they return to work or just let them return to work. So I guess a couple of questions here. First of all, when somebody has the potential of being exposed and they alert it to us, the mandatory 10 to 14 days quarantine is what I'm looking for. And the second is, do we have that person test before he returns back to work, or they return back to work?
Yep. Terry, so we have the 14-day quarantine, right. Which covers your 10 days of work and then the intermittent weekends. So we end up with the 14 days, or however it ends up working out. What did anybody at the health department, or what are other businesses doing? And I should be up on this, I apologize, but the guidelines for returning, when you have to come back, do you have to test? Is it, if you have no symptoms after the 14 days, you can return? I mean, do we have leeway to say, 14 days and no symptoms, you can return? Or is the directive after 14 days, you still have to get a test before you return? Does that make sense?
Yes. And the answer to that question, it is all over the book, all over the page on if they're requiring a test or not. When I talked to the Department of Health, they said that was up to us, but of course they always err on the side of caution. You have to realize that could be asymptomatic. Asymptomatics will not show any sort of symptoms, but is basically our call if we want them to test before they come back or just to return to work.
I think it makes a difference. I mean, is the person that tested positive someone you cohabitate with or someone you had casual contact with? Because I know in my situation, if it was just arm's length casual contact, it's all shut down. But if it's someone you cohabitate with, then we're still good. Because there have been in our immediate circle more positive tests than there ever have been before. But then there also have been a lot of negative tests for people who have had contact with them, some of which cohabitated. So I mean that the length of contact and the duration of the contact and the level of contact seems to be very important.
According to the health department gentleman who I talked to, I explained the situation. He said that you could just be in the vicinity for less than 5 minutes and still be exposed. So he didn't say anything about cohabitation. He didn't say anything about how, far away they needed to be, how long they needed to be there. I think, Mr. Foreman, to answer your question, I just don't know anymore. And I just think my guidance from the health department was what I just said. And I do think that, I just want everyone to be on board, but still remember that we have to keep the rest of the staff safe. And that was the whole reason for schedules that didn't overlap. That was the whole reason for separation of team members. Like we have Peg at the fire station now, so that if something would happen, the one person that was exposed wouldn't be exposing the whole team and it would shut the village down.
And so because an asymptomatic, someone that's been exposed but might not have any symptoms, the 14-day quarantine covers that too. So if someone is exposed and whether it just they don't get it, or if they get it but are asymptomatic, if they don't develop any symptoms, that 14-day quarantine covers that, correct?
It should. That's correct.
Okay.
From the date of exposure, correct.
From the date of potential exposure.
Potential exposure, correct. Sorry.
I guess all I'm getting at is if we're going to do this, we have to define exposure.
Well, I think the state's already defined exposure for us, and the health department has. I guess where I'm kind of at on it is if you've been around someone that could have been exposed or someone that has a positive test, we have the 14-day quarantine period. Yeah. And if you develop no symptoms during those 14 days, come back without a test. Yeah. But if you develop symptoms, and with it being, allergy season, it's hard to tell what are the symptoms. But if you develop symptoms, and especially if you go get a test, or if you get a test and are positive, then we want a negative test when you come back, so that we have that, so that we're not sending people off to get tested that might have been exposed but don't develop any symptoms. 14
Correct.
days, they come back. But if there's that, symptoms or positive test, then we get after the 14 days, we get the negative test before coming back in, so that we know it's no longer an active virus that could be transmitted to everyone else. That's kind of where I'm at.
Right. And there is the one line that is in the employee manual that states that if the village administrator thinks that someone should go home, I have a right to send them home. So if there would be excess coughing, if there'd be sneezing, if there'd be sniffles, anything, especially if you're back from a quarantine day that may not fit into it, then maybe we need a couple more days off. But I think I
was going to say, and we do have the ability to send employees for tests.
Yes.
At Diley, they reached out at the beginning of this and said that they would be willing to test anybody. We just have to give them like an hour's notice or something like that.
Right. Chuck, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Well, you know, I know this is a touchy subject. I mean, if someone comes into, you know, reports to you, say, hey, so-and-so in my family might have COVID or, you know, has it, at what point do we know that the family has it? You know what I mean? I hate to see, I know when someone takes 14 days off, are they going to get paid? Because what I'm worrying about, go ahead, Terry.
Yes, we are bound. They get paid on what we call administrative leave. That is correct.
Okay.
But that is a directive.
Because I don't want people say that if they know somebody in the family that got it, then say, well, I'm not going to report it. I don't have it. I don't have no symptoms. I'm not going to say anything, and I'm going to come to work. But knowing that they will get compensated, they might.
That's correct.
They will be more honest. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you, Chuck. I honestly don't believe anybody we have on staff right now would do that. And I think if we found out if they did, that we would have another employee policy thing, because that would be a blatant lie and misleading. But again, it's something we need to be careful of, because we're not always going to have the employees that we have right now. So it is something we do need to factor in there.
But they're all in contact with people that are completely out of our jurisdiction and bubble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I would venture to say every single employee has been exposed to a second-hand or third-hand exposed person at this point.
Well, and it's possible, but we don't know those. That's why if there's symptoms, they have to report symptoms.
Right.
But
so symptoms is different than exposure to someone with symptoms. That's why I'm trying to define what was your level of exposure.
Well, and so if you're visiting with a friend or a family, and you're hanging out for a little bit, and you find out a couple days later that they've been exposed to someone that was positive before you met with them, or they themselves test positive, that's exposure. With court stuff, I have to let them know if I've been around someone that has been tested positive or had symptoms and was around someone.
So have you been around someone that has secondhand exposure? Or do you know?
See, and I don't know, but I'm fairly safe in saying there might have been someone at court, but I still don't go out and visit family, and I don't go eat inside a restaurant. So, I'm still not doing that stuff. So, but at court, could there have been someone sitting in the hallway that had been exposed to someone? Yes, they're wearing a mask, and I won't know that. But if I go to my mother's house and work on the farm for a little bit and go inside, sit down and eat a meal and then go home, and 2 days later she calls me and says, hey, so-and-so at my work that, I had to sit next to had symptoms and it tested positive, and I was sitting next to them for 2 days before they had symptoms. That's something I want to know, and that's something that at that point I would have to disclose, because it's, she was next to someone that got it, and then I was next to her, and she could be asymptomatic.
Remember, again, also, a lot of this doesn't mean this is what we want. A lot of it's what our insurance is requiring. Right now, since March, all of our employees fill out a form, and one of those questions are, have you been around anybody that has been exposed with COVID? So our employees answer those questions every pay period. So if someone would come in and say, okay, let me see, say, Tim Boucher's forms. I want to see if he said that he was exposed to anyone. I'm talking health department. I'm not talking public. I can show them that documentation because our insurance company says our guys need to be taking their temperatures and they need to be filling out these forms. So that's what we're doing. So remember, a lot of this just isn't what the Village of Baltimore wants to do. Some of this is also that is driven by the insurance companies and the Ohio Department of Health.
Well, and I agree, but I mean, some people here in the village, and even myself, I go out a lot. I'm not a person that stays home, and I know some of the people in the village probably feel the same way I do. I know some of them, they go camping every weekend or something, and I hate to see someone sit out 2 weeks if they almost know they don't have it. You see what I'm trying to say?
The flip side to that, though, Chuck, is they don't sit out and they're asymptomatic and they hang out and it spreads to all the employees of the village and we shut down for 2 weeks and even worse, end up with someone hospitalized or dead. But best case, everyone gets it and then we end up ceasing all operations for 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't want anybody to bring something into the village. Yeah, if I knew I've been around somebody, boy, I would tell everybody that, or I would stay home, but I would tell everybody that I've been around that day or the day before. But so, I mean, I think we should do something. Yeah, and 2 weeks. I guess.
Well, and the other option is, you send them home for a couple of days, and if you want to come back earlier, you go get a test, and if the test is negative.
Well, okay.
I mean, symptoms might not start right away, but if you're around someone, go home a couple of days. You should have active replicating virus in 3 to 5 days. So 3 days later, go get a test, and if the test is negative, come back.
Okay, I didn't know we can do that because I know some people at the VFW said they'd been around somebody and they went and got tested, and we tell them you can't come back into VFW till you get tested. Mm-hmm. And they come back and they was negative. Now, of course, if they ever come back positive, we'd probably be shutting down. But we have never had anybody come back negative. You know what I mean? But I've had people.
But you're having them test, though, right, Chuck?
Yes.
That's
they have to be tested. Yeah, sure. And if that's what you're asking, then I'm for it. Yes.
So that's the other option. Your 14-day quarantine or a couple of days, and some staff can work at home during that time. Some cannot, depending on what their job function is. But yeah, go get a test, and if you have a negative test, then you come back. Okay, and I'm okay with that because it usually takes 2 to 3 days, get a test, make sure you got a negative. And, I'm fine with that, yes. Rick or Ray?
I'd be more for take the 3 days, get the test. When you get the results, if they're negative, you come back. Then the 14-day quarantine is an option. Because in a sense, if one of them gets tested positive, they're pretty much all done for 14 days, or at least close to that. Because even though Tim might not have contact with me, let's say Peg tested positive and Peg was in the store. Now, when Tim comes in the store, he might not have been near Peg, but then he was near me and I was near Peg. So it becomes this domino that I don't understand how you untangle. It's almost like you have to have this. Oh. If you had close contact, it has to be close contact, I would guess, with someone who tested positive, then wait 3 days, get the test. As soon as you get the results, you come back. Not you just sit at home for 14 days and wait it out because you're not really doing anything proactive to determine whether you did get it or you didn't get it. And I've had a couple employees who have had family members, not cohabitating family members, who did test positive, who they would not test because they had no symptoms. Now, a private business is probably different than a government entity, but the problem is the government entity has contact with the private business.
Okay, well, I know that Diley will test for us.
Is that the closest?
They've
Like-
not been willing to test for some of our people, so.
Oh.
So if you won't test for the business, what good does it do to test for the municipality when they're interacting? So that makes it difficult.
Well, it might be a decision on, like I said, they reached out at the beginning because they knew municipalities needed to keep operating, and police departments, fire departments, and stuff like that to keep going.
Water.
So they might be holding back certain amount of tests for area municipalities.
Well, and we were deemed critical because you need supplies in order to do your job. So there again, they've denied employees of mine that had a family member, they've denied them a test because they had no symptoms. So,
What do we want to do here?
I say if somebody in the village that's working for the village and say, tell Terry, I've been around with somebody that has COVID. If I was you, Terry, I would say, go get tested. You cannot come back to work till you get tested. And it's a negative. That's what I would agree on.
And the test occurs, 3 days after your potential exposure, I think is what we have to wait for it to replicate. Because even the asymptomatic would show up at that point in the test.
That's correct.
So that person.
That's my question. Is it that they had contact with a person who tested positive, or they had contact with a person who had contact with a person who tested positive? That's my question.
I was going to say, what's the health department say? My opinion is if you've had contact with a person that had contact with a person that tested positive.
Yeah. Because he said that's the way. The gentleman I talked to at the health department said that is the way that, and you notice our numbers in Baltimore keep increasing. Almost every day we're getting increasing amounts. And he said it's because the asymptomatic cases, people don't realize that they have it. And I explained the whole scenario to him, and he agreed in we agreed in the actions that we took, and that's quarantine. But we can do the testing too.
Okay, we got to settle this. Wade, what do you feel like?
Yeah, Wade.
Well, so the scenario is that somebody's not feeling good and you send them home. That's right.
No, the scenario is somebody that works for us, parent was exposed to someone who tested positive for COVID. So I said, please go home or please go get tested. And then I called the health department and explained the same scenario to them. And they said they should go between a 10 and 14 day quarantine period just to make sure, because asymptomatic cases are really rocketing. So that's what I was told.
They get tested within that quarantine period and the test comes back negative, then they should be able to return to work.
Right.
So I say that's the way to go. So that you should probably, want them to come back to work. So get them tested.
Okay, I see the police chief. Mike, you want to say something?
Well, we have a policy we wrote for down here. We're in a little bit different boat because we're in and out of people's houses all day, unless they disclose. Now, we have received and have the thermometer from EMA down here that we use. And if we have anybody here, and here's a prime example. We've had 2 officers that both self-reported that they had been exposed, and when they went to test, both were tested as positive. So it's kind of hard depending on what you're out there doing, because with us, literally every day, we could be dealing with somebody, and I just don't know how you get around that other than universal precautions and using as much caution as you can, unless they absolutely say this was a one-on-one contact kind of thing. An example would be if we were arresting a person and had hands-on contact and they said to us, hey, just so you know, I've had a fever, I've had symptoms, or I've been diagnosed, then at that point they're required to self-report and get a test before they can come back to duty.
So you don't sit out 14 days. You go get a test and make sure the test is negative before you come back to work. Is that correct, Mike?
Right. We would send them at the first available, and we've been informed that Diley Ridge will do that for us. So as soon as someone would say, hey, I was in contact with a person confirmed, that they have COVID, then at that point they have to go first available and get a test and see where they're at with that. In many cases, just because you come in contact with somebody does not mean that you're going to catch it. Especially if you got your mask on, with us wearing gloves, washing up and scrubbing everything down as much as we do. It minimizes it a lot. But again, we did have 2 officers that did test positive.
Okay. And I'm sure everybody that was around them 2 officers, they had to take a test before they come back to work.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, so Terry, let me see if I can make this motion to go to council, that when someone in the village that's been around somebody that has COVID or tests positive, before that individual can come back, has to have at least have a negative test. Is that okay?
Well, can I modify
go ahead,
that?
Mayor.
I was going to say, can I modify that just a little bit and
Okay.
say, when we have someone that self-reports that they've been around someone that is positive, or someone that has tested positive, that we send them for a test. And the reason being this: if I come in and say, hey, I was around my mom, using my prior example, I was around my mom who was around the person that tested positive, my mom's not going to go get a test. So I don't know if she's asymptomatic or positive for it, or if she just didn't get it. But I was around her who was around someone who was. I still think I should need a test to come back. So I don't want to limit it to, an employee that is around someone that tested positive. I think it should be if the employee is around someone who tested positive, or is around someone who reports that they were around someone that eventually tested positive, then we get it. So we got that extra layer in there. I know it's a small distinction, but that way we could help. Yeah, because it could be that asymptomatic point, and we can't force that intermediary person to go get a test.
Yeah, and I agree. That's why I say after VFW. If an employee says, hey, I can't come to work because I've been around somebody that has the virus or whatnot, or I think they have it, we say right away, don't come to work, go get tested. So I like that, Mayor. That's good. And I'll make a motion to that effect.
Cosgrave, second the motion.
Okay. Any more discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Brad.
I'll do roll call.
Brian. Brian.
Okay. I'm back because I lost my internet connection. I didn't know what all this
was.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll take roll call. I'll take roll call. Keller.
Yes.
Cosgrave.
Yes.
Foreman.
Rick, are you on there?
Yes.
Yes, there he is.
Okay, motion carries.
Yes.
Okay. Now my next question is this: what happens if someone doesn't self-report? They get the virus and it spreads. I mean, is that employee against the employee manual or company policy? Does that require discipline? Where do we go from here with this?
Well, I would think if that person knew that they was around somebody and came to work, I would say yes. That's yeah. I think we can.
I would think that would fall
whatever the manual says. Yes.
I think that would fall into malfeasance or misfeasance or something like that.
They came with symptoms, or they came without having been around someone and didn't report it.
They didn't report that they were around someone, and they came in, and then they had symptoms, and it was spread to other staff. when they should have self-reported. I believe that it should be the amount.
Feeling a slippery slope here.
Why is that, Rick?
The president of the United States got it. He's in a better bubble than anyone.
Okay.
That's my concern. I mean, everyone who goes near him gets tested, and he got it anyway. So I guess you know that's why I feel like it's a slippery slope. Heck, if he got it, who couldn't?
Yeah. But the point is if we're trying to control it, and you don't come in and tell someone, you're violating policy. You're not following the rules. You're not disclosing that you have this.
Knowingly, okay, but
sometimes
you're not told until 2 days later, and if you're told 2 days later, that was out of your control.
That's out of your control, but you say, hey, I just found out this is this, and you're self-reporting it, and you're fine. But if you know that it occurred and make the choice not to disclose it, then I think we're in a violation of the employee manual somewhere.
Okay.
So that's just, but again, that's just on, you know, the disclosure of potential exposure.
Correct. Which goes along with the form that all employees fill out every week. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. You want to go back to old business?
Yeah, I'd like to start with the demo permit first.
Okay.
You'll notice I did, and it had come up, and the reason why we're looking at this is because everybody wondered, are we charging too much for demolition permits? Our fee, as you can see at the top of the Word document, is $150. What I also did was enclosed the demo permit itself. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted you to see how many times that either myself or Tim has to go to the site to inspect to make sure things are done. So it's not like, oh, somebody fills out this paperwork, they pay us $150, we sign it, we put it away, we're finished. That's not it. That's not the way it is with the demo. As you can see, there are a whole lot of things that they have to do. And I will tell you, I have had a lot of demo permits in the village. I am still working on one from last year that I still have to bring to their attention that they didn't do something right. Now, I bring that up because if you go all the way down to the bottom of this sheet, you will notice that Johnstown, Ohio charges $1,000 for their demo permit. You'll also notice that they refund $500 of that upon completion. I'm not advocating that we increase our fee to $1,000, but what I am advocating is that we increase our $150 to $300, and then we say, upon completion, we'll give you $150 back. Because it is amazing that, first of all, people think they can just tear something down and leave it the way they want to leave it and not conform to our zoning rules and regulations. So I think, Carrie, yes.
Okay, so on what conditions would we keep that additional $150? Because if we're just asking for $300 to give you $150 back, then why don't we just keep it at $150? So under what conditions would we keep the additional $150 or a portion thereof?
Okay, I would think that the tipping point would be when I have to send a violation letter and it has to go to mayor's court. I would say that is when they forfeit that other $150, because by the time I have gotten there, they have gotten one, if not two letters of a notice of violation before they go into court, because this takes a whole gob of time. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, from the time that one of these start till we inspect it till it's done. And again, the case that I'm still working on, you know, at least once a week, I have to put time in on a case. So I would like to say that the $150 is refunded once the job is complete. But I think the word is completion, completed to the satisfaction of the inspector. Well, I believe.
I'm okay with that. I just want to be careful how we word that, because upon completion could also be, well, yeah, you took me to mayor's court and I eventually got it done correct, so give me my $150 back. I think if we're going to say that, it's the permit, the demolition permit fee is $300, and 150 of it is automatically a cost. The additional $150 or a portion thereof will be returned to you, upon completion. The village may keep that 150 or a portion thereof for these particular issues. We have to issue a notice of violation. And maybe you put in there, if you have to issue a notice of violation, you keep 25. The second notice is another 25. We send you to court, and that's 75. And then we keep the full 150. But put it in there so that it's very clear what it covers, and that they'll get their money back if they fill the permit out correctly and do everything correctly and don't cause any problems.
I'm good with that.
I just want to be careful on that because, again, upon completion. Well, I went to mayor's court, but it's completed now, so give me my $150 back.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that too, with the way the mayor explained that. I'm good.
Now, okay. So I'll need to get with Jeff then to have him draw up a revision to our schedule fee. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yeah. Yep. That'll go onto the fees. So we'll need an ordinance to amend that.
Okay, Wade or Rick, you got
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the council we get an ordinance to modify our schedule fee in regards to the demolition permit.
and kind of worded the way the mayor says.
Right.
Okay, and Rick. Okay. Well, I mean the way the mayor and Terry, how we fund the money back.
No, I agree with that. I think it's good. Yes.
Okay, Rick. You okay?
I'm not okay with raising the fee on the demolition.
Well, I'll second the motion, but so we can discuss it some more. But
that's fine. That's fine.
And I know Wade made the motion. I seconded it, and I know Rick.
We'll take it to full council.
Okay. Okay, Brian, roll call.
Cosgray.
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
Foreman.
Yeah.
Okay, it will go to council and we'll discuss this more. Okay. Do we have time to do the cemetery or not?
I don't think so. I just want to give everybody a heads up. That's the information that Barb did. We really need to redo the cemetery. We are starting to get requests for transfers. If you remember, it was council's opinion that we put up a schedule, 2 schedules, one for residents, one for non-residents that went to buy graves in the cemeteries, any of them. What we're starting to see now is people wanting to transfer, people who say don't live in a village and want to transfer to somebody that doesn't live in the village that originally only paid $200 for the graves. So I think there's a whole lot of things that we need to sit down and talk through. And by we, I mean, I'm going to put a committee together of Barb and Missy and Tim, the people that deal specifically with the cemetery, because again, I've had to reach out to Jeff a couple of times. Jeff was able to create a form for me to use for the transfers. But if it's council's wishes that those that do not live in the village do not receive a cheaper burial site, then we have to do something with our procedures, and they're long overdue to be looked at. So. And
I agree, because I see it too. I read the paper every day and see where they're buried. Yeah, I agree. So, so we'll keep that on the agenda. And is there anything else besides that?
No, that's.
Harry?
Yes.
You okay with done? Okay, hearing nothing else, we'll keep the cemetery on the agenda. We'll hit that again. And so the meeting's adjourned. Can we take 5 minutes before we have Council Ho? Mayor?
Yeah, I give you. Yeah, we'll it's 7:28, so we'll just call council to order at 7:35. Since we've been on here since 6 o'clock, going strong. So, will that work for you, Chuck? Chuck's already up and running.
I guess
Already
that's
said yes.
off and running.
He's already on his way to the restroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't seen Bob log on yet.
Bob who?
Bob Hankinson.
I'm
He's
still
on.
here.
Oh,
He's
you're
been
not
on.
yet?
I've been on since service.
Yeah, he has been. I don't see him either on my screen, so I don't know how he's not showing.
Yeah, you're not showing. Yeah, you're invisible. I mean, I don't even have you on my list of participants.
Jeff came on. I see Jeff.
And
yeah,
I'm here.
Mayor, now be time to ask Bob what he was. In the garage.
Did you stop the recording, Mayor? Mayor, did you stop the recording from the? Oh, you can't do that.
I can pause the recording. I'm keeping it live though, because it's a pain to stop it and restart that.
Okay.
But I don't know that anybody's watching, so I'll ask. So, did you have a raccoon in your shed over the weekend, Bob?
Did I have a what?
A raccoon. I could have swore I saw you with a pellet gun shooting at something in your shed.
I had groundhog.
Love those groundhogs.
Pellet gun.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I was working on the.
They were digging underneath my shed.
I was working on the pool and I heard pop, pop. And it, it wasn't a rifle pop, but I knew it was like an air pellet gun or something. I look and I see you looking in, and I'm like, oh, he's got something in the shed.
Did you get him?
He wasn't in the shed, but he was real close to it. So, yeah.
Get him taken care of, Bob?
They dig out a lot. Pardon?
I said, did you get him taken care of?
No.
No.
He jumped.
I'll tell you what, let me pick up a bigger trap at work and I'll stop over there someday and set it for you.
I tried a live trap and they won't go in it.
Oh, yeah, they will.
I put all kinds of things in it for them to eat that I've read online, but they won't go in them.
I'll bring one over.
If you got something better, if you got something better, I'd like to use a live trap and try to catch him.
Bob, have you tried cantaloupe?
No, I haven't. They like it?
Yeah. Slice that up and put a chunk in there, and that's worked for me in the past.
I'll try it.
Started. The Service and Rules Committee meeting in between here. I forgot about the rules. Yep.
I suppose as soon as Chuck gets back there, we can go ahead and start.
Yeah, I'm back.
You're back, so we're good. We're good to start. All right. So then, since I think everybody's on here, we will call the council meeting. Oops, let me get to my agenda. Ooh, let me hit record again. There we go. So we will call the October 12th council meeting to order, and we will start with prayer and a pledge tonight. We'll start with Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Will be done
on earth as
it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those
who trespass against us.
It's not temptation. Deliver us from evil. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, please.
Let's see, Cosgrove,
Present.
Norman,
Present.
Hamilton. Hamilton,
Present.
Atkinson,
Present.
Keller.
Present.
All right. We got 5. Let's have a meeting. First item tonight is the approval of the September 28th meeting minutes.
Here, I'll make a motion. We accept them as written. I went over them briefly and didn't see anything that popped right up.
I'll second that.
Well, Foreman got the second in there first, I think. So we got motion and second on the meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Cosgrove,
Yes.
Atkinson,
Yes.
Keller,
Yes.
Norman,
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
All right, minutes will be approved as written. Next is approval of the agenda. There are 2 pieces of legislation on tonight, one in annexation and one for the parking fines, and we need sponsors for those 2. Annexation's been discussed in just about every committee. So anyone could do that, and the parking one came out of safety.
Keller will take that.
All right. And the parking one kind of went through safety first, so I forget who made the motion to bring it to council.
I don't either. I know I'm on safety, and I know Mike is, and
Mr. Hamilton, are you on safety?
I think I am,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll take that one if it is. Which one is that one?
You get the parking fines there, Mike. That's the setting the fine for a payable ticket for a parking violation.
Number 33, right?
Yep.
And Chuck, you got 32?
yes.
Thank you.
All right, those are the only 2 amendments I saw that needed to be made to the agenda. So is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
I'll move that we accept the agenda as printed and amended with the 2 sponsors on the 2 ordinance.
All right.
I'll second that.
Hamilton seconds. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgrove,
Yes.
Norman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Atkinson,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
All right. We have an agenda. I was just checking because the next thing on the agenda is visitors. I don't have any emails yet. Though sometimes it's delayed. The one I got last week actually came in before the meeting started, but I didn't get it until after we did the visitor section. So if there's any sent in, hopefully they'll show up by the end of the meeting. So we'll move on to administration reports. My reports. I'll keep it quick this week because, well, Terry's been doing a lot and has a lot to cover, though most everybody was on service. Would ask for a brief executive session following regular business for a personnel matter. Should be brief. The personnel matter is so that to confidentially discuss the applicants that submitted for the open council seat. No decision could be made in that executive session, but we do want to be able to have a brief discussion about that. And then if council wants to proceed with one of the applicants, we would resume regular business to do that. So I just ask for that at the conclusion of our meeting here. Town halls, they're kicking in. I had one last week, had one person attend, asked good questions. They tend to be pretty much the same questions from everybody that's attended so far. I did I do have one coming up this Friday. Again, I got one every week until we get to the election day. I did talk to Logan at the Eagle Gazette. They're going to try to get something in the paper this week or next week, I think, about it. It wasn't a very long interview. I don't think it'll be a full article on the levy. I think it'll be part of their election roundup and different issues going on. But I did spend some time with the Eagle Gazette to talk about it. And I'm going to segue here into the website because it's related to the levy. In case you haven't been on the website recently, it got switched over. Barb did all of that behind the scenes work with the other company to get it switched over, and having done website server changes and stuff, I can tell you it's not easy. There's always a glitch here or there, but Barb did a great job. And I think, quite frankly, the biggest glitch was probably me, because after she did all this work and arranged everything with the company to move the website over, I then posted information on the levy and frequently asked questions and the property tax breakdown. But I didn't tell anybody I did that, and they had already taken the snapshot to move the website. So when the website flipped over, that information wasn't there. So I have since recreated that, and so that'll start going out on my social media, and I'll put it on the news section of the web page so that people can get there. So the website's got kind of a new look. Barb did a great job at that. Sorry, Barb, I know I made your job a little bit hard there, but that was all on me. But the levy information is up on the website now. Links, like I said, will start going out about it. I have one page dedicated to the property tax breakdown because that seems to be the big question everybody's asking. So I put it up there from $100,000 evaluation to $350,000 evaluation, so that it'll tell you what your yearly and even monthly change would be. So that's all I have right now because Terry's got the rest of the stuff. So if no one has questions for me, I'll toss it over to her.
Hey, thanks, Mayor. You took my punch for the website. So like the mayor said, please take a chance to go to the website and look at it. We are putting a message on the utility bills that go out this week that we do have a new website, and we're looking for any input any of the residents may have to make it as good as can be. I think this relationship that Barb has entered us into it is going to be much better than the Bluehost relationship we just got out of. So looking forward to making that website more informative to the public. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is digress just a little bit. I'm going to talk about utility bills. I have been on all of the mayor's town halls and stuff, and I have to tell you that I think the questions are great. I think the interaction with the people that are on those forums have been really, really good. We're doing a good job, I believe, in disseminating information about everything. One of the things that troubles me when I look at and comments is how everybody refers to their utility bill as their water bill. I think it's important that when someone says that to you, that you kind of like, and I've explained this a couple of times and they go, okay, you're right, it's not a water bill. I think that, it's what I call a utility bill because there are 3 utilities on that bill. There's water, there's sewer, and there's stormwater. And I think it's important that everybody understands that it would be like putting an electric bill and a gas bill together and calling it an electric bill, but you have gas on there. So I think it's important that when your constituents do approach you and say that you do tell them that, there are 3 different utilities on there, and that the sewer, goes up and down based on their usage. Now, one of the comments that I did see is that someone had said that their bill went from $150 this last month to $300 and some dollars. That is another fact that I think that if someone says that to you, that you could help educate a little bit. The only reason that a bill would increase like that is that either A, they have a leak somewhere in their house, they have a toilet running, they could have a number of things. The kids could have left the garden hose on. The only reason since January, if your bill is increased, is because of those things. Even a defective meter, when it starts, shall we say, dying or losing its life, you know, it goes backwards. It starts slowing down. It doesn't speed up. So Missy, every month, when she looks at the list and she sees a very, very high bill that is out of the norm, she will give them a call and say, you know, you need to check your toilets. You need to check to make sure the garden hose isn't on. And I use that example because at least twice that I know of, we have had somebody who has let their garden hose run for weeks. You can imagine what their bill was like. The same way, if you just got a little drip in the faucet, people don't realize how much water that takes. So anytime that they're saying that the bills are increasing after January 1, when we did the increase, that means somewhere there's an issue, and all they have to do is call the office and we can help them through that. So I just wanted to hit that point tonight. The other thing I want to talk about is leaf pickup, which is near and dear to everyone. Leaf pickup will start next week. We will do as we have in the past, start on the west side of the village and move across the village each day. Now, we will do that until the day before Thanksgiving, and that will be the last pickup. I want to also, again, take this time to make sure that, you know, council understands what leaf pickup curtails. We have an old piece of equipment, and when I say old, it's old. And as you know, staff keeps things together really well and repairs them. This piece of equipment requires not one, but 2 staff members to walk behind it. So when we say we start at the west side of the village and go to the other side of the village, you have 2 of our staff members walking behind a truck picking up leaves. So I just want you to know it's not a fast process. The other thing is we do have options also, is that if a resident is missed or they think we're not doing it fast enough, or what their option is to put their leaves in a bag, and Rumpke will pick up those leaves as long as they're put in a plastic bag. Rumpke does have a program that I've asked for more information on so that we can look at for next year. And they do they have what they call a leaf and yard waste pickup program. It may be something we may want to look into. Again, you know, right now the process is 2 people walk behind the truck and walk the whole village. So it's a lot of work.
Now, Terry, you said starting next week, but you said start on the west side of the village and go through the village each day.
Right. Each day, or if that day there's a lot of leaves down and there wasn't leaves down after they've made their trip, or it's been a very sparse trip, they may skip a day. You know, we don't know when all the leaves are going to come down. Like, you know, we know that they've started and there's quite a few down there. And that's why I'm saying there are options, you know.
So it's not that each day starting next week, they're going to go through the village. It's each day they're going to look and see how many residences have leaves down to be picked up, because leaf pickup was one of the things we talked about and did initially cut, I think.
Yes. And we did have a discussion about that, Mayor, because again, the same people that are driving the truck and walking behind the truck are the same people that are going to be putting in the new water line, are paving a street. So yes, and with a small staff, we had talked about that. At our staff meeting last week, we did talk about, do we have the time? Will we have the manpower and the time to be able to do the leaf pickup this year? And everybody wanted to at least give it a try. So we're going to try our best. But again, I guess the realization has to set in that the same people that drive the truck and walk behind the truck are the same people that put in the water lines and fix everything else. So for notice to go out, because I see a lot of social media questions about it as well. Mm-hmm. Would it be better to say leaf pickup's going to start next week? Mm-hmm. And the last day for pickup will be the day before Thanksgiving, that Wednesday. Yes.
And it will, you know, and just kind of leave it as that, because, you know, there's a lot of leaves down now, and if everyone rakes them they might have a day, but then, like you said, it might be a week before there's enough to justify going around again.
That is correct. You are right, Mayor. That is a good way to put it. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So I think those are the three burning issues that I wanted to bring before you, other than the issue that I brought up in service meeting, the Romulus leak that we have between Rome and North Street. One of the things about that, we will not have to have a PTI for that. So that is something that we just order the parts for. And then once the guys are free, then we can go ahead and install that pipe. There, at this point in time, to dig up that ground and to try to put another patch on the patches that are already there is not cost effective. So I believe that the right way to go is to install another a new water line there. And again, it would be around $25,000 for the staff to be able to do that. And that would hook up all the residents from Rome down to North Street onto a new water line.
Hey, Terry, educate me.
Yes.
At what point is a PTI required? Why did we need one for the Westwood project and not potentially for this one?
The reason why we needed it for the way that I understand that, and I should have brought Tim on tonight, is that the size of the line and the connection of where the point was. This one is just going to be a straight in lay in like we did for the South Main Street, and we didn't have to have a PTI for it. But we will get with Burn and Bull. I believe that is what Mike told us. So at the next council meeting, I'll have figures for you, and I'll have a more educated answer to that question. But for this piece of pipe, Mike from B3 told us we would not need a PTI.
Are we putting in a 6-inch? What size line are we putting in?
Yes, I believe that's what they're targeting, is going to be a 6.
Are we directional boring, or are we open digging?
No, we're open digging, just like we did on
Is it in the street or
Westwood.
out of the street?
It's along, that would be the east side of the street.
So it is outside the street on the east.
Some of it is on the edge of the street.
Okay.
If you go down, if you take a trip down Romulus, as you turn off of Rome, you will see where the patches have been, and it's just forcing its way downward. Every time we patch a hole, then another one comes up in front of it, or patch a leak, I should say. They're not holes. So
okay.
If that makes any sense, I can have more details and a clear estimate for you at the next council meeting.
Anybody have, that's all you have? Anybody have anything else for Terry? All right, Brian, got anything for us tonight?
No.
All right. Jeff, got any? Jeff left.
Yeah. Yes, no, I'm here. Two pieces of legislation. 2020-32, the final piece of legislation for the Hammer annexation. I would ask for council to consider suspending the 3 reading rule and passing that tonight. The property is now owned by the new owner, who has already started and is very anxious to complete the annexation process. And this is the last formality that needs to be approved by council in order to finalize that. And the second piece of legislation, 2020-33, ordinance to amend chapter 452 to establish a minimum fine for parking violations and a payment method for those violations, so that offenders are aware that they don't have to personally appear in mayor's court for those offenses. That does not have emergency language, so that would be on for first reading only. And as a follow-up to the mayor's comment, there was an article in the Gazette, the edition this morning, about the levy for the village, and it was a well-written article. Few points were incorrect, but overall it was well written. So, and that's all I have.
Well, anytime you can say a few points were incorrect as opposed to the majority of the article, which often happens there, it's a good article then.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Moving on, committee reports. Finance. Finance.
Well, we didn't have no meeting this evening. It's been put off till, what is our next council meeting date?
26.
Maybe the 26th?
Yes, sir.
The 26th, yep.
Okay. It'll be 6
right.
p.m.
All right. Service?
The service met tonight, and we went over pretty much everything in the village administrator's report, and tapping into the paper mill and to the wastewater treatment plant and how well that's going. Also, I think we passed a motion to allow the village to accept a bid on resurfacing the lots behind the village hall and the police station streets. And that was really about it. So our next meeting is in November, I think November 23rd.
All right. And Jeff, what Wade was talking about is there was a bid to do some sealing of the stuff. I think the bid was $2,700. Service made the motion to, send it to council. Do you just want that approval for that? I mean, it's under Terry's amount, but you still want, since it went through that, to just have a motion for approval from full council?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Safety.
Yeah. Guess who can't find their last month's meeting minutes, but.
Well, we haven't met since the last time. I'll save you the trouble. Your next meeting's the 26th.
Hey, all right. Thank you then. No wonder I couldn't find them.
All right. And rules.
Okay, Mayor, we met tonight, and every council member was online when we talked. We talked about COVID-19, where we're talking about staff and employees and everybody reporting. Terry, we gave Terry some guidelines. She agrees with it, and everything's, I think, on the up and up. So I won't say any more about that. Then we went into demolition permit fees, which is the village right now is $150. We talked about it quite a bit. We increased it to $300 for a vote of 2-1, with the possibility for the person that doing the work to get $150 of it back or part of it. So, like I said, that was a motion going to council, and our next meeting will be November the 9th.
All right. Moving on, police department, and I will apologize. The chief sent out reports, but I don't think we forwarded them on to everybody yet. So apologies for that, but we'll get those out. But Chief, take it away. Chief, still there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
There you are.
Okay. I think I'm having a little phone problem here, but anyway, we went to a little bit different formatting, which I hope makes it easier for everyone to get an idea of what's going on. What I'd like to let everybody know up front is when you get you're going to get a monthly, which will be the first council meeting, and it will show stats from the previous month. Now, with that, when it talks about calls, things along, or reports taken, please understand that is when we have taken police action. So we may get 10 calls that are a check the area type call that would not necessitate a report, but it's still there. We're talking to the sheriff's department on how to go about getting that accomplished. I know it's pretty ponderous, so that may be a biannual report that would have a listing of everything as far as dispatching things along that line. two officers I mentioned earlier have both been cleared to come back from their COVID issues. We did get a confession in regard to the stolen car case that we were working, and Thursday we think we're going to be recovering the car, we hope. So we've got that. I've got several cases that are at the prosecutor's office as usual, and we're just moving forward. I'm also going to be talking to Terry maybe tomorrow. It is getting extremely, and I can't stress that enough, extremely difficult to get anyone who wants to come out here and do this job. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that. But I would like to put an ad into the Capital City 9 Fraternal Order of Police magazine that they put out monthly, and see if we can't find some guys that are maybe retiring. They want to keep a commission. Maybe they, we've got a lot of Columbus. We've got a lot of the burb officers that live in Fairfield County. Quite a few of them live around us, and we may be able to pick up a few guys there that would be, willing to come in and work and give us some time. But we're going to have to do something, because as this has shown us, you end up losing 3 people through no fault of anybody. It really negates the amount of coverage and how you respond to, and how quickly you can respond to events. And it's not just us. Everybody that I've talked to is having the same problems. But I think we need to be proactive on it and start moving down that road to expand if we can.
Okay. And well, Cap City 9, that covers all of Central Ohio, right? Will that
right?
Does
right.
it get down into southeastern Ohio where our pay is a little more competitive?
It doesn't, but the problem is, I looked into that, and short of targeting like some of the quote unquote bigger cities down in that area, and a lot of those now don't have a local newspaper. That seems to be a dying sort of thing. The only other option that we looked into, and I tried to get a price on this, but I haven't. We're a member of the Small Police Department Coalition that we joined about a year or so ago. And I did reach out to them about putting something up that would go to all the chiefs that are involved in that. And there's quite a few from that area. Well, let's change that. From the southern part of Ohio that are involved in that. But I have not heard anything back from them yet. But yeah, you're
okay.
Absolutely right. We can't pay a guy, $20 an hour to come here and work part-time for us. So that's an issue.
Yeah, I've talked to, there are a number of retired or retiring officers in this area that I know, and every time I'll be like, you want to keep your commission, you want to, part-time, easy schedule, keep your commission. And they say, okay, how much? And I tell them, and they say, yeah, no, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and we have to all be realists and understand that, back in the day, I can remember, and I'll go back 30 years. There wasn't an agency around that had reserves that didn't have a waiting list of people that wanted to be a reserve. And now quite a few agencies have gotten to the point that the numbers that they have are so small, they're debating whether it's even worth the time and effort to maintain that unit. So again, it's not just us. Everybody is suffering from this. A lot of it, quite honestly, is bad press, bad media, whatever you want to call it. And the day of volunteers, and I think we all realize this, the day of people saying, hey, you know what, I want to get back to the community, I want to volunteer, has kind of went to the wayside. It's, well, yeah, I'll be glad to do it, but how much can you pay me? and that's where we tend to fall down.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully some advertisements will work.
That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for the chief? All right. Moving on. There's no fire board report. I'm going to wait until an replacement is appointed to fill those spots that Dwayne had previously served in, just because I don't know who's going to get appointed, and if someone has any specialized expertise in some area that might be beneficial, I don't want to preclude that. So no fire board report. Hopefully, I don't even know if they've had their meeting yet. It might be this Thursday. So I'll see what I can get from them, though, for the next meeting. Moving on, planning and zoning, we had a meeting on Thursday. It was more of a regroup organizational meeting because prior to COVID, we had been having systematic meetings, almost hearing type things on some issues, and specifically with regards to short-term rentals, Airbnbs, bed and breakfasts, and that industry to figure out if anything needs to be done in the village regarding them, and if the committee thinks something needs to be done, what to do. We had owners come in for one meeting to talk about how, for instance, Airbnb is run. We had another meeting where we had residents that live near some Airbnbs have an opportunity to provide some input. And then we were getting ready to start in on a benchmark of best practices from, I don't want to call them best practices, a benchmark of what other communities are doing with regards to that emerging industry. And that's when COVID hit and everything kind of stopped. So our meeting on last Thursday was just to make sure everybody was comfortable continuing those meetings, picking up where we left off, as well as making sure everyone was okay continuing to use Zoom for those meetings and discussions. Everyone that was able to attend was okay with that. So in November, we'll resume our planning and zoning meeting, and that is going to be the review of the benchmarks that Terry's put together with regards to what other communities are doing. And then if there's time, I think we're also going to talk about adding ducks to the village chicken ordinance. So that was planning and zoning. Any questions there? All right. Tree Commission.
The Tree Commission will hold a Arbor Day celebration. It's a fall one on October 18th at 2 o'clock. It'll be at the museum and the Burley House over there. In the same area, we'll be planting 2 trees along with the Cub Scouts. Of course, everybody will be socially distancing, and this will be again on October 18th. So, Mayor, I need a proclamation from you, please. Yes.
Yep.
I'll send you a reminder and let you just to remind you to get that for us. So I think that's it. And then that will take care of our October meeting. And then we'll meet then the second Thursday in November.
All right. And then Records Commission still kind of on hold until we can get back in the office. All right. Moving on to motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion. We go into executive session after the tonight's meeting, after all business, for personnel, for an open council meeting member.
All right. And Chuck, everybody, I think at that point we could probably excuse the chief and Brian, though, if they want to attend, that would be up to you. And up to them to listen in to the discussion.
Well, I'll leave it that anybody wants to stay on just because, we all got to work with that new council member. So they can if they want to listen in, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Hamilton on a second. Roll call.
Keller,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Cosgray.
Yes.
All right. So we'll have that. Thank you, guys. And then I believe we needed the motion to approve the village parking lot resealing. And I forget who made that in service.
I think I made that motion. We authorized the village administrator to accept the bid for like $2,700 to resurface the parking lots.
Sounded like you just made that motion again.
Yepper.
All right. Motion by Cosgray.
Seconded by Foreman. Foreman, seconds.
Foreman. All right. Any further discussion from council on that one? Hearing none, roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Let's see. Any
Hey,
other
Mayor,
motions?
do I need to make
Yeah.
a motion to take we made a motion in rules about the demolition to bring that back up to council and so we can make legislation for that or amend the one that we already have to increase the price?
Well, I think,
Chuck, you don't need a motion for that.
Okay.
I in my notes, so I'll do the legislation on it. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
all right. Moving on, ordinances resolutions. First reading is ordinance 2020-32, which is an ordinance accepting annexation of 2.156 plus acres. This is the Hammer annexation, directing the village solicitor to prosecute proceedings necessary to effect it. The declaration of an emergency. Sponsor on this one is Mr. Keller.
Okay, Mayor, we've talked about this, I think, probably last couple of months, and we knew about this coming on. And I think all the council members agreed to let them annex, and they have already started. So at this time, I would bypass committee, or not bypass committee, but bypass the 3 reading rule. And
all right. We got the motion
second.
to suspend 3 reading. Cosgray second. Discussion, no discussion on that. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller.
yes.
All right. 3 readings by suspended.
Okay, Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2020-32.
Cosgray second.
All right. Motion and second to adopt. Discussion on 2020-32. Hearing none. Roll call.
Cosgray,
Yes.
Foreman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes.
Keller.
Yes.
All right. 2020-32 will be adopted. Thank you, everyone.
Mayor, will you be in the office in the morning?
I leave tomorrow at around 6:45, but I'll be back mid-afternoon.
Okay. So can you stop by the village and sign off on that? And I'll need Brian to sign off on it too. So, okay.
Yeah, I guess that got a little heated at the township meeting. They threatened to stop work order on it.
Yeah, I had a telephone call, Rick, from the zoning inspector for the township, and he was a little huffy at first until I explained to him, hey, we're at the tail end of this annexation process, and he kind of calmed down and said, well, I understand now, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, the county dropped the ball on communication on that, and so the township trustees didn't know it was coming.
Okay.
So it was a communication issue primarily caused by the county, not by the owners or by us or by the trustees, but pretty much by the county.
Got it. So, but the zoning inspector calmed down and keep him in the loop, and that, you know, things are moving along and it'll be finalized here shortly. So,
all right, cool. So yeah, I'll stop in and sign that tomorrow. I've got to run to Newark and file something, so the latest I'll be down to sign it would be probably 4 o'clock.
Brian, be able to stop by tomorrow and sign that too and issue certified copies?
Yeah.
Great. So, okay. I'll leave it in the mayor's box then sometime in the morning. So, okay. Thanks.
All right. Moving on, Ordinance 2020-33, which is an ordinance amending Chapter 452 of the Baltimore Codified Ordinances, parking penalty to establish a minimum fine and payment method for parking violations. Sponsor is Hamilton.
This one, excuse me, that came from safety, I believe, didn't it?
Yep. It'd been on safety for a while because I dropped the ball on it, and finally we set the fine at, I think, $25 plus the court costs and made it payable.
All right. What's been in safety and up to council and that, and it's just so the offenders do not have to appear. They can come in and pay the fines for it and everything and get along with life, and it can go 3 readings.
All right. So we'll leave 2020-33 on for the next meeting, which is the 26th. Moving on, second readings, none. Third readings, none. Does anybody have any old business? Hearing none. Does any? Oh.
I guess just so everyone knows that the patchwork that Columbia Gas was supposed to do on East Cliff Street is completed. And Tim did an inspection, and they did go by our specifications that we gave them. So that is completed.
Oh, good.
It does look pretty good.
Good, I'm glad.
Any other old business?
Yeah.
All right. Any new business?
I just wanted to say that I phoned a friend, and it is the size of the line that we are going to on Romulus Street. Mr. Foreman, I guess it was you, Mayor, that asked, why don't we have to have PTI? Because we're not going to go up 2 sizes. When we did Westwood, we went up 2 sizes to a 6-inch. This is just going to go from a 4 to 6, so we're not going up 2 sizes. So it is going to be a 6-inch, and we don't need a PTI.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other new business? All right. I just checked emails. I didn't have any visitor note emails. So before we adjourn, there'll be last call. Hey, last call. It's Fair Week, and there's not really a fair going on except for the Junior Fair, which is being live streamed on Facebook. So if anybody needs me Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, or Friday morning, I'll be at the fair while Hallie shows all of her rabbits. So it's definitely an interesting time when we go there right now to take care of them. So, but at least they're still doing it so the kids can show their animals. So, anybody else have anything? If not, our next meeting will be October 26th at 7:30. And we will take a quick break here while I stop the live stream and the recording to go into executive session. Council has to stay on. The rest of you, well, and Jeff, the rest of you, you want to, Chuck left it open, or if you want to call it a night at 8:15, that's your call. So give me just a second here.